Hi, Katie. Can you hear me okay?
I can. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Great. All right, I'm going to adjust a little bit. I love that we both have our beautiful plants in the background. Yes, perfect, perfect.
Very on brand.
Right, that's what we need. That's what we need. Awesome. Awesome. Well, we'll give people a few minutes to kind of get in. I just wanted to say hi, I'm Carmen. I do have my two dogs here with me that they might sneak in or out. So
That's preferable, I think. We want
perfect,
dogs.
perfect.
More dogs.
I have a feeling the bigger one's probably going to join us here soon. So he's like sneaking in here. Do you want to come get it? Come here. This is Odin. This is our field guy. Hi, big guy.
He's beautiful.
Thank you. He's a fun guy, that's for sure. Awesome. Well, hi everyone. My name is Carmen. I am the grassroots organizer for HEAL Utah, the Healthy Environment Alliance of Utah, obviously. Today we're celebrating the 50th anniversary of Earth Day, not of HEAL Day. But we are celebrating very differently than we have in the last 50 years. But we need to celebrate to remind ourselves to not give up hope, to keep moving forward. Mother Earth is still healing and still needs a lot of work in order to get where she needs to be. So everyone from HEAL, this is Katie, and today we are joined by our amazing outdoor advocate. We're going to let her introduce herself and get started. Thank you everyone for joining us, and Katie, we'll let you take it away.
Hey everyone, my name is Katie Boué. I am, I guess the easiest way to describe my job is a full-time outdoor advocate. I've been working in the outdoor industry for the last 10 years, and my time spent, encouraging people to get outside and really trying to support the outdoor recreation economy opened my eyes to how important all of this work is, with a backbone of advocacy and action and protecting the outdoors, the environment, and seeing all the ways that it intersects. And it's such a beautiful web, and like every time that you peel off another layer, there's like more to discover and there's deeper to go, and there's always more we can do. And I think that's like the most beautiful thing to dedicate your life to, and it's so exciting. And I love it. I'm sure you love your work the same. Like, I live and breathe the work that I do, and I would have it no other way.
Exactly. Well, where are you streaming from today? I love your beautiful monstera behind you, and just let everyone know where we're at.
Yeah, so I think we are both in Salt Lake City, Utah right now. I'm streaming from my home office, which has always been my home office, even before we were all stuck at home. This is like a way of life for me.
Totally.
But just here, I think I'm on day 45 of my self-quarantine.
Oh my goodness. How are you holding up over there? I mean, staying active with environmental needs, right?
Yeah. I think the first few weeks were really hard. I think everyone kind of was going through that same roller coaster of like, what is happening, the anxiety around it, the exhaustion around it. And I think, for me especially, like, I really pulled back on a lot of advocacy conversations and work and using my energy, because I was in like survival mode, especially with the earthquakes we had here. That added like a whole new layer to it. But I think in the last few weeks, what I've been feeling and what a lot of my community has really been sharing is that, like, we are ready to start diving back in. We're also realizing that this pandemic has kind of opened our eyes to how incredibly intersectional all of this environmental work is, and how much it all connects, and how something like a pandemic and climate change can be so connected to each other. And so, it's a really hard, horrible time, but I think it's also really activating us in a lot of important ways that I hope we will take to heart and, carry with us even after we are released from our quarantines.
Right. Create those habits and those changes we want to see now and start those seeds. I absolutely agree. And I think, it's everyone's responsibility to take on those little steps that they can. And you've said before, more or less, that everyone has a responsibility. Can you unpack that a little for us?
Yeah, that's my like rallying cry. That
yes,
if you ask me to go off on that. I mean, it's people have been around me when I really start going on that. I just think that everyone who works in the outdoor space, who has an outdoor brand, who recreates outside, who loves to go on public lands, who loves to go climbing, if you go outside or benefit from the outdoors, I think that we need to understand that that is in itself extractive. We are taking from the land, you know,
Totally.
whether it's like leaving a footprint or putting a bolt on a cliff, or whether it's creating products that have an impact on the earth but are designed to get people out on the earth. We need to be acknowledging and taking responsibility for the fact that like we take from the earth, and so we really have to start giving back and making giving back a priority as, you know, as recreationalists, as professionals in the outdoor industry. We are responsible to take care of public lands, and taking care of public lands and taking care of the earth are really one and the same.
Sorry, Pup's going a little crazy over here. But absolutely, that's exactly what we need. And that's how we get into it. And, you know, as we lead into that, why don't we talk about the outdoor advocacy projects? That it's a great way for those outdoor adventurous and enthusiasts to get involved when they don't know how, because I feel like a lot of people get stumped, like, I want to do something, but I'm not sure how I can feel like I'm really making an impact when I can't save every single penguin and I can't save every polar bear. What does the Outdoor Advocacy Project do to allow people to be those advocates?
Yeah, so the Outdoor Advocacy Project was born after my time spent working in the industry and realizing that there was no kind of cohesive umbrella glue for the outdoor community and the people and like the advocacy work that we want to do on an individual level, like the real soul stuff of the outdoor space. And there are so many incredible resources that already exist. There are so many people and like true experts that are out there that have been doing this work for years, for decades, but there's no funnel, there's no cohesive way to like get to all those places. You know, any question that you have about outdoor advocacy, whether how do I write my senators, how do I talk about climate change, how do I poop in the desert, those answers exist, but they're just all over the internet, like on nonprofit websites that haven't been updated since like 1995, or like a campaign that somebody did 3 years ago. And so what I wanted to do is create one place where advocates can go and get started. And the point of the Outdoor Advocacy Project is not to be like the end all be all. That's like your first stepping stone on your journey as an advocate. So you start on outdooradvocacy.com, maybe learning about how air pollution connects with environmental and social justice. And hopefully by the end of that journey, you've landed on the Heal Utah website, and now you're becoming an activated member of the Heal community. So it's like, how do we find all these connections? How do we connect the dots between excited, fired up outdoor advocates? Because people want to do good. I really, truly believe that. But we need to give them those resources and those tools and that expertise that they need to become that empowered, educated activist.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, this sounds like the perfect time to dive in some issues. We're talking about air pollution. We're talking about conservation and easement issues. And I mean, we're talking about federal, state, local, and international, because whatever is happening here is happening elsewhere, and everything that's happening elsewhere is funneling its way back to here as well. So, you know, during this time, we're celebrating Earth Week, great, but at the same time, the administration, our presidential administration, is working on 95 EPA rollbacks, including mercury rollbacks, pollution rollbacks, water pollution rollbacks, all those fun things. And they're citing the current pandemic for reasoning to lessen their pollution regulations. Locally, we have the issue of Tier 3 gas and refineries and pollution that affect all of us, especially in the Salt Lake Valley, especially those who live right next to those refineries. And, you know, in general, the global environmental injustice that's going on. So how do you feel that all these issues, among all the others, play into an environmental justice, especially with the current pandemic going on?
Yeah, I think, you know, like I said earlier, this pandemic is really highlighting the ways that climate activism and environmental activism are so connected to social justice. And I think a really clear way that we're seeing that first of all, is looking at the way that I keep calling it the crooks. I'm like, crooks never sleep on an opportunity to commit a crime. And so while those of us are out here, you know, kind of taking like depression naps or baking our quarantine bread because it's the only thing that brings us joy, and we're like, obviously the entire world has stopped. We're all just like quiet and in this quarantine. That is not the case.
Not the case.
Not the case. The bad guys are going strong. They smelled an opportunity and they will never pass that up. And we can really trace things back to like looking at the way that communities are being affected right now. And I think so many of us, you know, that are like cozy at home with our houseplants right now are in these really privileged positions to not truly be affected in these like eye-opening ways. But the communities right now that are being the most impacted by this pandemic are the communities who are also most impacted by environmental regulations, the communities who are on the front lines of air pollution. They're the communities who are on the front lines of having their water contaminated and being on the front lines of fracking. And those are the communities who are getting sick. And those are the communities who are dying from this. And I think that it's, you know, it all connects. And
it keeps intersecting. It keeps intersecting. And that's exactly it. And that's exactly the problem too, is it's not just, like you said, it's not just our quarantine. It's not just what's going on. Like these people are affected and they have nowhere else to go because we do have our house plans. We're a little bit further away. We don't have to worry, but it's really shone a light on something about environmental justice in the environmental world and what's going on. Are there any other issues that you're following right now that you think our followers should be taking care of? I mean, obviously we need to talk about the communities of color, low-income families, and Indigenous populations that are being affected right now. But what else is there? What else should we be watching while everything gets slid under the covers, while everyone's showing, oh, look, the waters in Venice are cleaning up. This is great. But what's secretly happening?
Yeah, I think that whole rhetoric of like, we are the virus, the earth is healing, is that's not it, folks. That is not, we are not subscribing to that.
I mean, we kind of are, but that's not.
We are usually the problem. However, you know, the people that are, you know, again, it's looking at who's impacted, who's disproportionately impacted, and when we apply that logic, it's not adding up right. But I think you mentioned that the way that Indigenous communities are being affected right now, especially for us in Utah, seeing what's happening down in the Navajo Nation is
absolutely
horrifying and absolutely heartbreaking. And so if you haven't looked up that, just Google Navajo Nation pandemic and really kind of open your eyes to that, and looking at all the EPA rollbacks that are happening now, and looking at what's happening with NEPA and, you know, attacks on your ability to make your voice heard in the public process. You have a right to be heard. You have a right for your voice to be considered in big environmental considerations. And they're trying to attack that. They're trying to shorten public comment periods. They're trying to shorten the opportunity that you have to make your voice heard and fast track things that really need to be analyzed in a long-term way, in a really thoughtful, scientific way.
By the public, by the people who are being affected, not just those who are glancing at the bills and the resolutions that are coming through.
Exactly. And I think, you know, tied in with that as well is all of the oil and gas atrociousness that's happening on our public lands. And I think really too, the irony of seeing the way that these oil and gas companies are getting bailouts right now from the federal government as oil prices drop below zero. And it's just, I lose my words when I think about
And that's perfect, because we've talked about the issues. We're getting fired up. Like you said, we're losing, like, we're ready to start. So let's dive into advocating. And what do you think the cost is for not being an advocate these days, especially when we're home half of the time? Like, how important is it right now? What's the cost to not do it?
I think that we're really starting to see the cost of not taking environmental action, and that it's not just, you know, oh, this beautiful public land space might get plowed over and developed. It's like a life and death situation for many people. It's the health, it's global health. It's the health of the trees, it's the health of the wildlife, it's the health of your neighbor, it's your health, it's the health of your grandma. It all connects, and I think we're really seeing that we have to stand up for the things that we believe in and the things that we care about. We have to take action, and recognizing too that, you know, right now it's really hard. I know we're all going on these like emotional roller coasters. We're all emotionally compromised. But showing up how you can every single day is so important now more than ever. And I think it's going to continue to be more and more important. And the more that we bake advocacy and advocacy action into like our daily life, it becomes just a habit. You know, at first, the first few times you call your senator is terrifying. Absolutely terrifying. I won't mince that. It's my anxiety was through the roof.
It's awful.
Awful. But as you keep doing it, it becomes fine. And it becomes like a second nature. And then like eventually the next time you need to call your senators, you're just like, hey, it's me again. Here I am. Here's what I have to say. And the more that we like, you know, make it a habit and make it part of our daily lives, the easier it becomes to take those actions, the more we build relationships, which is such a key in being effective and communicating with your lawmakers. And so I think, you know, we got to do it. It's our responsibility. If you love being outdoors, if you love breathing fresh air, getting outside on the trails to get the sunshine and that fresh air, you need to work to keep that air fresh.
Because it won't be. If you're not there fighting, it's not going to stay fresh because there's the equal amount of people who are fighting to pollute it and to make it worse. And you're exactly right. It is terrifying to call your legislator, but what I always tell people, because my job is grassroots lobbyist, so I want people to advocate. I want them to be encouraged. As I tell them, like, these elected officials are looking for experts. And if you care about an issue, you're going to research, you're going to dive into it. You're going to know what you're talking about, because you don't want to call your legislator and not know what you're talking about. You want to know what you're talking about. And that helps so much. And I think people need to remember, like, you're it. Like, you know the information more than they do. You need to be able to stand up. So how can we get more people to take what they know and what they're passionate about and get people to become advocates? Is it through changing habits, voting with our dollars, lobbying, all the above, different things you've seen be effective? What should people be doing to get them to become advocates?
Yeah, I think it's all of the above. So, you know, whatever works for you. If you're someone who like truly has absolutely crippling anxiety around your phone, that's understandable. For me, you know, I used to have and still have, and I'm sure it's going to be even worse now, a lot of crowd anxiety. So for me, showing up at marches and rallies was often really hard for me because it just like would drain me. And then for the next week, I'm just a mess on the floor. Yep. I need to be hiding in a pillow. So I started figuring out, okay, that may not be the most effective way for me to show up. What is more effective? I'm a good writer. So let me start writing and using my words as a tool to spread the, to you know, write my legislators, to write my lawmakers, to write on my personal channels, to encourage the people around me to write their lawmakers. And along those lines, I think something that's so important is remembering that whether you have 5 followers, 500 followers, or 50,000 followers, you are influential.
Yes.
I've seen a few studies that show that like someone like me, just because I'm a little bit Instagram famous, you're probably more influential than I am because the people that you actually affect are the people that you know, your family, your friends, your colleagues, and
they trust you.
And they trust you. So it's reaching out to your community and realizing that like you are an influential person. You can influence the mind of people around you, and you can also influence your lawmakers. I think that's a huge one. You know, a lot of people think that we are kind of like disconnected. There's like the constituents, and then there's like the lawmakers up here on some pedestal. Right. But that really isn't the case.
No.
Yeah, it's not the case. They are so reachable. They do want to hear from you. They do care what you have to say. And even if it's something that they don't agree with, and like getting that message kind of like irks them, they're listening. And when we hit a critical mass of people irking our lawmakers, they get irked enough into action.
That's what we want. That's exactly what we want. Absolutely. Absolutely. I love that. So what is it like to reach out to your lawmakers in person or electronically? You said like that marches and stuff aren't really your jam, but writing and emailing, like, what is it like? How do you feel about it? Has it gotten easier? Do you feel you have a system down? Were there places you went to find out how to draft those and what to say? Like, how did you get comfortable enough to reach out to your lawmakers?
I think the first step really is connecting with that organization that has the tools to set you up for success. So
Awesome.
one of the first ones for me was Outdoor Alliance. They are a nonprofit that does public lands work, and
Yeah,
similar to what you guys have on the HEAL website, you know, there are so many organizations that have easy letter writing formats that you just
totally.
plug it in and go, hit send, it reaches your lawmakers. And that was kind of the first intro for me, and then realizing like, okay, so I've been sending these pre-written outreach emails. Okay, what can I do next? Well, now I can start customizing these outreach
Yeah,
letters. When you add your own voice to it, when you add your own anecdote, that is huge, and it makes a really big difference when you write a personal message, sharing
100%.
your experience, how it affects you as a constituent. And then like the next step is calling. Terrifying. The next step,
Terrifying, always,
which
every
ironically
time.
I found so much less terrifying than calling them, is actually showing up and demanding a conversation in person. So I started lobbying in DC a few times a year, and those are, I think, the most like impactful moments of my year, going out and meeting face to face and investing in those relationships.
Yeah.
My favorite people to lobby are actually Republicans, because, you know, as much as I love the Democrats, you go into their office and it's like, hey, we're doing such a good job. High five, high five. Yeah, you're great.
Yep.
You're great. You know, we're already aligned, but the satisfaction of spending a few years talking to Republican lawmakers, Rep. John Curtis is actually one who I like.
Oh yeah.
Love going to see. We butt heads on a lot of issues. We are not aligned on a lot of issues. But after years of showing up, saying hi, building a relationship, complimenting his sock collection, eventually it got to a point where like we built a relationship where he understood that I'm invested in the long term. I understood that he is actually listening despite the fact that we disagree on a lot. And we were able to change some stuff on legislation that I was like, hey, Rep. Curtis, I know that you have a lot going on your plate. I noticed something going on this bill. It was the Emory County bill. Mm-hmm. And as the expert here, I just wanted to point this out. Yep. And he was like, oh, yeah, I hadn't really thought about that. We'll change that, sure. And you can make that kind of impact, and you don't have to be like Instagram famous to do that.
No.
He has no idea how many followers I have on Instagram. I'm just this blonde girl who shows up.
Katie, yeah, who has shown up time and time again, and is there. You have shown your research. You've shown who you are. Absolutely. That is a beautiful story.
It's a huge one. And you don't have to go to DC to do that either. You know, I think something that I'm really excited about diving into more as we have this year of like really going local is showing up more for state government. So your state has state senators, you have like state lawmakers, and you can show up in your state capital. You can show up at your city councils. You can show up on so many different levels of government that there are like an infinite amount of opportunities to start building relationships, to find someone that you connect with, to find someone that you feel you can build a relationship with, and take it from there.
Absolutely. I absolutely agree. And I mean, that's what we're here for too. Like HEAL really works on our state issues. We do a few federal things, but like, and we take people, and we want to take people like you, Katie, and everything else. And you know, think about HB 411 that passed last year with the Community Renewable Act. It passed with an hour and a half left of the session, and communities had till literally 9 months, 10 months to get it together and to sign a resolution. And it took community citizens going to city councils, getting resolutions passed, and literally the last day of the city council meetings before December 31st, we had 23 communities commit to 100% renewable energy by 2030. And that was all just people like you and me in Salt Lake reaching out, going to community council meetings and hitting up our state legislatures. And it's made a difference. Like,
it works.
it
The
works.
idea of like the power of the people is such a real thing. And I think it's so powerful when you realize that, like, if not you, then who?
Exactly. Exactly. And if it's you, one person, someone else is going to see you and join in. And then they're going to come in. It has to start with one person. And I mean, we need to be the change we want to see at every level. And we have to walk the walk and not just talk the talk, because we can say we want changes, but if we're not at those community council meetings ourselves, then nothing's getting done.
Exactly. And I think the bigger that you build that community, it's that idea of like many hands make for light work. The more people you have showing up, the easier this burden is to lift, because I know that it's really intimidating as an individual when you want to get started on things and you feel like you've like taken on the burden of like climate change. That's like a real heavy burden to carry by yourself. But when you start connecting with more people who are aligned on that issue, who are also taking action in their own ways, who are taking action in their local communities, when you start going to meetups or to, like HEAL legislative previews, and you're in a room with people who are all fired up on the same thing, it makes it lighter. And I think, a lot of this work it feels heavy. These are like life or death situations. These are like the future of our planet.
Literal heavy.
It's big issues with like big answers that are going to take a long time to find. But when you realize that you're doing it with so many other people and that you are not alone, it's like, I think it's such a beautiful, uplifting, it's like the most magical feeling in the world to be in a room full of advocates who are all fired up on the same thing as you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it seems like we both agree, like, it is pretty easy to reach out to lawmakers. You mentioned our website. If you have some time, I'd like to show everyone how quick and painless it really is to contact our legislators.
Yeah, let's do it right now, y'all. Okay, so we are going to let's see if I can get this on here nice.
Yeah, here we're going to go.
All right, we are going to get
go
on
ahead.
the HEAL Utah website, healutah.org-action alert, and it's going to take you to this easy little website right here, where it tells you what's going on. It gives you the breakdown on what's happening with the EPA. It shows you why you should care, and it tells you what you can do, which is filling out this easy form right here. So we're going to do it in real time. You enter your name, your email, your address. You obviously click I'd like to receive more updates from this organization so you can get the good tidings of HEAL Utah in your inbox.
Yeah.
And then you just fill it out. So it's super easy as this. Do you want a response? Yes, you would. And then it has right here, it has the pre-written message from HEAL. They've done all the heavy lifting for you. And you can hit send. I mean, that was like 15 seconds that it took me. Or you can kind of take a few minutes and add your own message here. So you can write about how you are seeing that COVID-19 is disproportionately affecting the communities around you. You can talk about specifically how you're being impacted. You can talk about specifically the places that you love to go, that you're worried about being impacted. And you can just add that in, easy peasy. And then you hit send. Done.
And who is it sending to for you?
For me, it was sending to Senator Mike Lee.
Awesome. So everyone, that's healutah.org/action alert. And you type in your address and it'll send directly to your legislators who's representing you. So you are that constituent. And look how fast that took you. It took you 30 seconds even to type it in. And you've now let them know that you're watching them. You know what they're doing. It's easy, right? Like, people can definitely make a difference with it. Well, so that was an easy way to stay active. And I think that kind of gives us a little bit of hope, makes us feel a little bit better about our day. What other reasons for hope these days when it comes to environmental justice and environmental healing are you seeing or are you hoping to see in the future?
I think what really brings me the most hope and joy right now is seeing the way that activists of all kinds are kind of intersecting and are realizing how intersectional our work all is, and realizing that things like learning how to grow your own food and planting little seeds can actually become like a climate action that becomes an environmental action that informs you and informs your life. It changes your daily habits. I think everyone is in this weird space of like contracting, and I mean that in the way of like the actual like radius of our lives and where we're going and where we're traveling to, but we're expanding so much personally and in the soul, and realizing what's important to us right now. And I'm seeing so many people who are stepping up, who are getting creative, who are pivoting what they're doing and what they're focusing on. So for me, I know that at the beginning of this year, I had a lot of work lined up in like the travel sector, in promoting tourism, and I love that work. But as you may imagine, everything got canceled as this all went down. And there was this moment where I felt really hopeless, and I wasn't sure like what the future was going to look like for me. And what's happened since then is this pivot into a space that's ended up being so much more powerful for me. You know, I was working on these like big national brand campaigns and they were cool, but now I'm realizing that there's all this opportunity that's coming up for me really serendipitously in doing things like this chat with Heal Utah and getting involved with the Rural Utah Project and getting involved with like Emory County Tourism. My world shrunk, right, in this moment, but at the same time now it feels like it's expanding and it's becoming more meaningful and it's becoming deeper connected. And I just think that that is so beautiful to see the way that we can kind of sprout from the ashes of like our former lives.
Absolutely. And I mean, like, best time to think about it. It's Earth Day. There's green everywhere. Renewal's coming through. I just saw in the chat, you know, we've been talking about Heal Utah and all these organizations here in Utah. What about national for those viewers who are popping in from outside of Utah? Are there any ones that you'd like to give a shout out to that are working on these issues, especially on Earth Day? Like, let's share everyone, because this is how we get involved. Find those organizations, even those small niche areas that you're really a part of and that you want to focus on, and get involved. I started my work with doing humanitarian rights in Darfur, and now I'm working for Heal and I'm supporting my state, and I want other people to know, like, get involved wherever you can. So let's hear what you have to say. Like, where should we go for more information and places?
Yeah, so in whatever state, whatever community you're in, there is probably an advocacy group that's specific to where you live, even specific to like where you live and the sport you love to do. So you can drill down this on so many levels. If you're, for example, a climber, there's the American Alpine Club that you can get involved with. They do such great work on a national level, but then you can drill down and, you know, if you're from the Southeast, shout out to the, like one of the first organizations I got involved with, the Southeastern Climbers Coalition. You know, there's so many different ways to connect if you just dig a little bit. And another org that I would love to give a shout out to is Outdoor Alliance. I've been working with them for a few years. If you love public lands, they are like my go-to for great, easy action that you can take, similar to what we just did for Heal. You know, there are so many ways to get involved, and I think that finding what you are most passionate about and connecting the dots to your passions and what gets you fired up to an organization that can help you become a stronger advocate for that. You know, it feels good, and you want to give and you want to get involved. So just explore and stay involved. Yeah.
Absolutely. And, you know, viewers, as we're talking about organizations, feel free to throw some in, because I'm sure there's plenty that we don't know about that we'd like to hear about and see what's going on. I do want to give a shout out to, like, lots of organizations are doing Earth Day events today, so make sure you're checking everywhere out. So most importantly, what can we leave everyone with about advocacy and environmentalism and this weird little shrunken bubble we've all found ourselves in? Like, what can we leave people with?
You know, I think the first thing I want to leave people with is grace. You know, I know it's a weird, hard time, and I know that sometimes showing up right now feels like really, really heavy. And so I just want to say that like I see that and I feel that too. You know, I've tried to be really transparent about that the last few months, that
Good.
this is like advocacy is who I am, but that doesn't mean that advocacy isn't kind of hard and heavy sometimes right now.
Hard and
So
heavy.
if you wake up with like great ambitions of like saving the world today, and you roll out of bed and you realize that actually today is just a couch day and like all that you can muster today is leaving a voicemail on your senator's phone, that's fine. Like, be
That's
gracious
great.
with yourself. Understand that this is a journey. Understand that advocacy and environmentalism is a lifelong commitment. This isn't like something on your to-do list that you're going to check off and you're like, oh, advocacy, done, did it,
Done.
we're good. This is going to be an ongoing thing. So show up when you can, show up how you can, and give yourself some space too on days that you can't show up, because we all go through that. I'm sure you felt that
Oh
too.
yeah.
Like, carrying on and
Absolutely.
carrying through this is like, I'm sure been pretty exhausting for you.
It's not sustainable. Like, if we're talking about sustainability, like, we can't talk about saving the earth if we can't save ourselves. Like, we need to practice those things, and it's a lifelong process, but it takes making those changes and changing those practices and habits. Like you said, like, now you're not doing as many of these big national events, but you found different things that you are passionate about and excited about. And I think people need to remember that, like, find what you want. Now's the time. What a great opportunity we've been given. Like, it is hard, but like you said, we need to rise from the ashes of what's going on and come together, especially on days like today. Like, we need to come together as the earth to come together with that. Um, Anything else? Like, what are you doing to celebrate Earth Day besides our awesome event? Are there any changes you'd recommend for people besides starting your garden? I know personally, I like to shop in bulk and I take my own containers to different places. That's been helping me a lot, as well as trying to utilize my natural light in my apartment as much as I can. Try and keep the lights off. Because, yeah, we've already been connected to electronics, but I feel like now we're a little bit more. And so it's nice to remember there's still nature outside. So what are you doing to celebrate and to shift?
So like a lot of us, have been starting growing seeds. And so I'm
Awesome.
going to spend much of the day planning my future garden. I'm really
Yay!
excited. I got part of the Wasatch Community Gardens. I have a plot at the Nine Line Garden. Yeah, and I'm going to build some raised beds as well, because I think part of this whole process too has made me realize that I want to be deeper connected to my food and where it comes from.
Totally.
And recognizing too that like that's part of it's growing these little baby arugulas over here, but part of it has also been a surprise to me in baking and making my own cookies and making. I finally got yeast today. My neighbor found yeast, like the only yeast in all of Salt Lake City. So I'm going to be making some bagels and some bread. I've been making a lot of cookies, and it realized what it helped me realize was that like I don't know where a lot of my food actually comes from. Like, cookies you get in a store, you don't actually know what's in there. And it's
You don't.
probably not like all good, but when you can like make your own cookies and you know exactly what went into those cookies. And I think that like breaking down my life and kind of like getting more intimately aware of where things come from in my life, how they're made, what goes into them, what I'm putting into my body,
What
all
pollution's
connects to
coming
this.
from all of that?
Yeah,
Like,
it's
the
like
commitment, all of that.
you look at there's like the cookies that I put into my body. Okay, so I really care about the food that I'm putting into my body. That also relates to like the air that I'm putting into my body, the air that I'm breathing. I really care about that air, and that
Right.
means that I care about air pollution, which means that I want to be an activist and an advocate for cleaner air. So like everything connects, and I don't know, I'm so fired up. I'm gonna take my dog for a walk, enjoy the beautiful spring blossoms, which are causing some like major allergies for me as well, but
Worth
you can't
it.
win them
Like,
all.
I've been having my door open. I'm like, I can't breathe, but but it is so worth it. And yeah, I'm doing the same, getting gardens going. I agree, it makes a different connection, and it's healthier for you. And like, when you think about the produce that you're picking up from the grocery store, more than likely it's traveling a couple thousand miles and it's picked at different times in the season, and you're not getting the nutrients you need. Whereas nothing is better than grabbing a fresh, warm tomato right off the vine and carrying on with your day.
Yeah, do you shop at Hello Bulk?
I do. I was actually going to give them a shout out. They invited us to be a host on their story today to talk about Earth Day. They're sharing a whole bunch of different organizations. They had Momentum Recycling right after us. Found out a lot about glass recycling that I didn't know before. But Hello Bulk is fantastic. I love that store. If you guys haven't been there, they have literally everything. And then they get local produce and local dairy and eggs and whatever else you can. Like it's fantastic. I'm glad to know that you know of them too.
Oh yeah, I love Hello Bulk. And I see too, Mama Chari kombucha is on here, and they are, and it's like one of those things too, it's, I don't know, when things become smaller, they become bigger. So I'm like really careful about like where I'm sourcing everything from because suddenly grocery runs are like this huge epic like battle I'm going into. And having small things like Mama Chari, they're still doing pickup. And not only is it so meaningful to be supporting local businesses right now,
Absolutely.
because local businesses have a smaller footprint. So like really buying local kombucha is an act of environmentalism because that local kombucha has a much smaller environmental impact than like the big store chain kombucha. And it feels so good to just go there and like have this like a little bit of normalcy too. And feeling like you have a little bit of control in your life right now when so much is out of control.
Absolutely. Yeah, totally agree. Well, yeah, if anyone has any questions as we're going through, Katie, I don't want to take up all your time, but I feel like we could talk and get riled up all day, I'm sure. I just want to let people know if you're feeling inspired to take action like Katie did, head over to our website, healutah.org. Tell Congress to protect our public health, and also follow Katie on social media. She's a fantastic human being, and yeah, she's Instagram famous, but she knows what she wants and how she wants to make a difference in the world. And I think that helps a lot of people think, okay, I can be, supportive of myself in what I want to do and be passionate about it. Check out the outdoor advocacy more ways to be involved. And yeah, if anyone else has anything else, we'd love to chat. And if not, Katie, you're wonderful.
You're wonderful. Thank you so much for this. It's, again, this has been such a joyous and hopeful thing for me. I know something, like an Instagram live may seem like a small thing, but in this day and age, it really is big. And I think too, realizing that me having like 50,000 followers on Instagram really isn't that big of a reflection of me. It's a reflection of 50,000 people's choice to want to get involved, to want to hear my ramblings about the EPA. It's not about me, it's about us, it's about you, it's about this community, it's about the shared passion that we all have for the earth, for the outdoors, for our public lands. And I think that is just like the most beautiful thing on this planet.
Absolutely. Because we're not doing it for us. Let's be real. Like, yeah, we want to enjoy nature. We want to breathe our air, but like we want everyone to be able to do those things. When I applied for HEAL, I was asked, why did you apply? And I literally pointed out the windows at the mountains. I'm like, because I love seeing those every single day. But we have to be there to protect it because it literally, like, here comes summer ozone season, and then right after that's pollution season, here's inversion season. So we have to stay involved every day.
Every single day. I see we have a question here. I was wondering if you could touch on being insightful/inspiring to family members. What are some best practices? So I think a great one here is realizing that we don't change people. People change themselves, and we can invite change. Yes. We can provide resources to empower change, but you are not going to be the one to change someone's mind. They will change their own mind, and all that you can do is lead with compassion and empathy in trying to understand them, why they feel the way they do, and just be there to hold space for conversation with them. Be there to answer any questions that they have. Be there to empower them with information and science and data. Yes. And, guide them down the path of righteousness. You are not going to pick them up and put them on the path of righteousness. They have to step there on their own.
They have to step there. But it's small things like even for me and you living in Utah, like you guys, tier3gas.org, that's the number 3, will show you all the places that have a cleaner burning gasoline fuel so that you're not impacting the air quality as much. Like, and all I shared that with my family. Like, this is something small you can do. The gas station's down the street, and those small changes, you can help get your family members to think about it. But like you said, you can't place them. You gotta guide them that way.
Yeah, and I think you have to make it personal too.
Yes.
Because as much as I know we've been harping on this idea, like it's not about us, it's so much bigger than us. I think for a lot of people, the first step, like before you can have this like enlightened perspective of like it's so much bigger than me, it is about you.
It is about you.
Making it personal and making it like specific to the issue is what will really affect people. So, you know, something like getting someone to convert to like to change to an electric car. And if someone is like really not on board with like environmentalism and saving the earth, and they're like, these hippies over here, you get on their level. You have to meet people where they're at and understand like, okay, how can I explain this to my uncle in a way that he'll understand? It's like, well, here you go, uncle. Here's some information on how getting an electric car is going to save you money.
Mm-hmm.
And suddenly we have an environmentalist on our hands driving an electric car.
Yep. I always say the biggest statement when you're lobbying, not only legislators, but your family, is that because statement. I care about this issue because it'll save you money. It will help me breathe better. It'll help your kids breathe better. It'll help everything stay nice and green, things like that. And I think those are all important things to remember. And yeah, it's hard to talk to family members and other people that may not agree with you. We all have those people, but you know, those slight guiding steps and that little like nudge, like, yeah, let's maybe switch to something a little better. Like, let's not get the fruit that's in the packaging and pre-pilled. Let's just take the fruit right off the counter. I think we have time for one more question, and I really liked this one. That's, how can you practice more ways of being sustainable at home during quarantine? We talked about our garden. We've talked about Hello Bulk. I know Heal Utah is putting out kind of like some blog posts every couple of weeks about unplugging and how to reinvent being at home and in quarantine. So greener cooking, so taking from your garden, cold cooking, cooking in bulk, freezing food when you can, using your electronics less or charging them all at once and draining the whole battery. What are other ways that you feel you're being sustainable or trying to extend your sustainable practices at home?
I think a great one, you hit on so many good ones, and I think especially around food, because I think all of us are like really food centric these days because it's all we
compost, throw it out to the squirrels when I can.
I've been getting really creative around food waste. And it's one of the things that like I picked up during quarantine and I hope stays with me in the long term, is really trying to minimize my food waste and figuring out like what I can do with scraps. So right now I'm collecting, much to the chagrin of my boyfriend who hates seeing like junk around, I'm collecting a lot of the food scraps that we have that we would usually compost. And before I compost them, I want to make them into like a vegetable broth.
Yeah,
like boil them up.
That.
Yeah, so like extending the life of things and getting as much out of it as you can. You know, it's like, I don't want to go to the grocery store again, so how can I make the most out of this food that I have now?
And I love doing that vegetable scrap broth thing. I have my freezer bag full. I almost have another one. And then, yeah, you throw it into compost. I know it's terrible, but like my fruit, sometimes I leave out some fruit for the squirrels running around or the birds running around. Like, and composting and minimizing that food waste is so important. I know we're all trying to support local restaurants, and so we're getting to-go orders, but you need to think about how much waste is coming from those to-go orders too, and how to make that a better practice.
Yeah, totally. That's been an interesting one for me to try and navigate, you know, that balance. We want to support local businesses, but also I try to, you know, I'm that person who usually goes to a restaurant and like brings a Tupperware in my purse.
Yep, totally. But you can buy a gift card right now so that hopefully in a couple weeks or a couple months we can go and sit down and already have that dinner paid for and not have to worry about it. But I think there's a lot of ways, and I think people just need to follow Heal and Katie yourself and other ways, and just think about those conscious choices. Like, yeah, you want to be an advocate, but if you also want to be more sustainable at home, like think about what's not being sustainable at home. Seal your windows a little better. Don't use the AC. Open the windows if you can. Things like that for sure.
Yeah, and something that I think is a great maybe spot to end on and kind of some final words is this idea that, you know, we always hear this like back and forth about like, do individual actions really make an impact? Should we just be like focusing on the big picture? And I think that what I love so much about individual actions and the small things that we do, like making sure our windows are better sealed, reusing our food scraps, is that those may not have like the biggest measurable impact. But what those things do is that they start to change your habits. They start to change the way that you think. And it creates this like network of events, and it changes everything that you do. So like now you start considering the seal on your windows, and it translates to like maybe next time you get a house, you choose a house, or like next time you do renovations, you choose materials that have like better sealants. You just like, you start thinking things, and it becomes a snowball effect. And I think that it makes us think about advocacy and action and the choices that we make as consumers more. And so I think that taking those little steps every day and realizing like how impactful they can be to you as an advocate in the long run is really important.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, Katie, this has been fantastic. I'm so glad I got to celebrate Earth Day with you and really get fired up about advocacy, because it's important. It is so important. And it's nice to hear more people say that, because I think we get stuck in our circles of the nonprofits we work for. So it's good to remind everyone else that, yeah, we're doing it and we're still here and we need you there as well. So
yeah, and we are all in this together, whether it's advocating for air pollution, for public lands, for communities of color. Like we are all in this together, and it takes all of us to really make an impact. You know, environmentalism is so intersectional, and the more that we can connect all of our intersections and uplift each other and celebrate each other, the more impactful we're going to be.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I couldn't have said it better. Katie, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Everyone watching, thank you so much for celebrating the 50th anniversary of Earth Day with Heal. Thank you, everyone. And I hope everyone has a wonderful rest of your day.
Happy Earth Day, everybody.
Thanks, Katie.